back with yet another video, and today's video is to touch on the frequently asked questions that I get on my videos. And I hope this helps answer some of the common questions. If you have more questions or anything else that you would like to ask, then please feel free to put that in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to help the best I can. All right, so let's get started. So I've created a list here just so I don't forget anything. So the first question that I usually get asked is about the cost of the food. People like to know how the cost of the homemade food compares to the store-bought food. And depending on which food you buy from the stores, but to give you some idea, I have friends who buy, for example, Bluebell or Merrick or Honest Kitchen, those sorts of foods from the stores. What I have noticed in my experience is that the food that I make for my dogs usually compares to that type of cost. And it really depends on which type of protein you're using, which type of price you got when you were shopping. Did you buy it in bulk or not? And there are ways to save on it as well, right? But like a common a baseline to give you is, if you buy foods in those range, then the homemade food would comparably be similar. So it's not very costly. And I also like to think about it like in long run. Would you rather have your dogs be healthy in the long run, or would you rather have have them all these different type of health issues that research says that are caused by the poor quality of food and all that. So I would rather have my dogs happy, healthy for a long time, and steer them away from any type of issues that could cause from the poor quality of food. Other thing that gives me peace of mind when I make homemade food for my dogs is that I know exactly what's going on in their food, or not going on, but going in their food, right? So the ingredients, the exact ingredients, they're clean. I know what's in there, so it gives me a peace of mind, and it also gives me the exact idea what I'm feeding them and how much I'm feeding them, right? The percentage, the measurements, and everything. So and it shows in their their hair, their skin, their body, their overall health, in their annual physical records, that how they're doing, their teeth and everything. So the results are great. So I highly encourage everyone to look into the homemade dog food. And as always, please consult with your vet or your pet nutritionist before switching your dog's food, and making sure that what's right for your dog, because every dog is different. Every dog's requirement or what's considered balanced for them could be different from dog to dog, depending on their health, activity level, their medical conditions, and such, right? So this does not replace the vet or pet nutritionist advice, but I'm just encouraging you guys to look into it, do your own research, and consult your vet or pet nutritionist before you switch. But hopefully this inspires you and gives you some idea on what you can look into. So that's one of the common questions that I get. So if my suggestion always has been to my close friends and family that it does not cost a lot. It takes a little bit of effort, and once you get a hang of it, it's not that difficult either. And if you look at the long-term results, then it is great to feed them a good quality homemade food. So that's my experience, that's my take on it. The other question that I get is how much to feed, right? So how much to feed depends on your dog's weight and your dog's health, whether your dog is normal weight, overweight, underweight. So it depends on those criteria. But a general rule of thumb that I have heard and I've seen in my research is that it is supposed to be 2 to 3% of your dog's body weight for the daily dosage of the food. So that's one way to count it. So whatever your dog weighs, for example, 50 pounds, 2% or 3% of that body weight would be your daily feeding quantity for your dog. If you divide it in 2 meals, then just split that in 2. If you divide it in 3 meals, split that in 3. So it just, but the overall daily quantity should be 2 to 3%, and that's for an adult healthy weight dog, right? So again, consult with your vet or pet nutritionist to make sure what's the right amount for your dog. And other way to count it is I have looked up, and I'll put links for everything that I'm informing on here. So I've noticed Dr. Peter Tobias's website and his way of calculating the daily feeding instructions, and I think that it's sort of easier comparatively. It's easy to calculate it. Just like he says, that's easier, and I agree that it is easier. So what he suggests is that take your dog's weight, so let's say 50 pounds, time it by 10, so 500. That in grams is a daily feeding quantity for your dog. So for a 50-pound dog, it would be 500 grams a day. So it is really easier if you think about it. So whichever way you prefer, the 2 to 3% of body weight, or Dr. Peter Tobias's way, or any other way that your vet or pet nutritionist suggests, it's up to you. But this is just to give you a general idea. Now, if your dog is overweight, then obviously you're supposed to, put that into consideration. If your dog is underweight, then it's supposed to put that into consideration. So this rule of thumb is for an adult dog, a healthy dog, and with for a normal weight dog. So that's that. The other question that I get is for salt, whether it's good or bad. So from my research, what I have found out is that salt in small quantities, in moderation in other words, is good for dogs because it contains iodine in it. You should not be feeding a lot of quantity of salt or iodine to dogs. It should not be like a daily thing or too much thing or stuff like that. So what I tend to do is I alternate it. So one batch of food that I will make, I'll make it with small quantity of regular salt, so it contains iodine. Other batch that I'll make is with Himalayan pink salt. Sometimes I do it half and half. It also depends on which type of supplements you're giving them. If the supplements contains, for example, kelp powder, K-E-L-P, kelp, which contains iodine, then you don't have to add additional iodine to the dog food. So make sure you read the labels, make sure you know what's in the supplements, what you're feeding them, and then accordingly you can decide. But to answer the main question, whether salt is good or bad, based on what I learned from my vet and what I've learned from my research, is that salt in moderation is good for dogs because it contains iodine. Too much is not good, of course. And then the alternative is Himalayan pink salt, but it does not contain iodine. So like I said, I alternate it. It depends on you, how you would like to approach it. So I'm going down my list here. The other question that I usually get is about supplements. What supplements do I feed, or what kind of supplements should we feed the dog with homemade food to make sure they're balanced? So when talking about balanced, I cannot emphasize enough to contact your vet or your pet nutritionist and confirm what is right for your dog, what is considered balanced for your dog, okay? But other than that, as a general idea, with homemade dog food, one should consider adding a multivitamin supplement, a mineral supplement, calcium, omega-3 and 6, and prebiotics and probiotics. All right. And of course, when you add, homemade food and you mix and match your food every time you create a batch, it is, it does have different types of vitamins and different type of minerals in it, also calcium, depending on what you're feeding. But it may or may not be at par, and that is why I like to give my dogs supplements, just to make sure they are not short on any nutrients. For example, for multivitamins, I have used different multivitamins over the time, and recently I have started using Dr. Peter Tobias's multivitamin, which is called Soul Food, and I'll drop a link down below for you. I also use his mineral supplement, and I also use his omega-3 and 6 supplement. So those are the 3 supplements that I recently started using from Dr. Peter Tobias's, and I have not seen any adverse effect. In past, I've used other supplements from I think it's called, for calcium, I've used Ka calcium, and for vitamins and minerals, I've used Dogzymes Complete. Both of those were good too, and it just depends on your dog's digestive system and your dog's liking and all that, to the taste and the flavor or whatnot. Both of these supplements that I'm referring to, or both the companies that I'm referring to, they say that they use completely natural, organic ingredients. So I tend to lean towards companies who are certified and use, natural, organic, real ingredients, as opposed to, the synthetic ones. So I will put links to, these companies. This is not a sponsored video or anything. I'm just saying that based from my experience. So if you like to look into that, please do. And let me break it down a little bit further, because this is a very important subject, right? So multivitamins and minerals, like I said, the vegetables and fruits that you're feeding them, or whatever homemade food you're feeding them, they would contain some type of contain some type of vitamins and minerals in it. But depending on what you're feeding them, how much you're feeding them, and alternating them every batch is the key. So that really helps. But like I said, just so they're not deficient on any, I like to give them a supplement for vitamins and minerals both. As far as calcium and phosphorus is concerned, so if you're feeding your dog, so if I refer to Dr. Peter Tobias's recommendations and site, for calcium, phosphorus, they recommend feeding raw boned meat to your dog. Right? So when you're cooking the boneless meat, and you're not supposed to cook bones, as you may already know, so don't cook bones, please. But for the requirement of calcium and all that, Dr. Peter Tobias recommends feeding raw boned meat to your dogs, and there's a certain pattern that he recommends, like feeding it every 3rd or 4th meal or something like that. I'll drop a link to his site so you can go look at it. He also has a recipe builder on it, which I think is pretty cool. So please take a look at it. Again, this video is not sponsored by him or anyone, but I'm just saying it from my personal experience. I liked it, so I thought I'll suggest that. So calcium and phosphorus. So if you're feeding raw boned meat to your dog, then that should take care of the calcium intake or phosphorus intake, I believe. But in case you don't do that often, then from the same company as Dogzymes Complete, they have something called Ka calcium, which I used to feed my dog, and they have a nice way to calculate how much to feed. So for every cup of protein, you give them 1 teaspoon of Ka calcium. So that not only takes care of their calcium requirements, but also the phosphorus requirements and the balance of the two. Because I think that's where the boned and boneless meat play an important role as far as calcium and phosphorus are considered in my research. So you can look into that as well. For omega-3 and 6, there are different sources, salmon oil, krill oil, and it's make sure the levels, omega-3 and 6 levels, they're dog friendly. So I would highly suggest that either look into the omega-3 and 6 supplements that are provided by the dog friendly companies. For example, currently I'm using Dr. Peter Tobias's omega-3 and 6 supplement, and you're welcome to look into any other options as well. Just make sure it's dog friendly, because the EPA DHA level for humans versus dogs is different. The requirements are different. So just to be sure on that level. For probiotics and prebiotics, right? So there are many good ones out there that you can buy. For example, Dr. Peter Tobias does have a probiotic-prebiotic supplement, either or a combination, I'm not sure, but you can look at his site. Also, the company Dogzymes Complete, I think the company name is Nature Pharmacy, I have to look at the label. But the same company that has Dogzymes Complete also has a probiotic-prebiotic supplement that you can buy, and both Dr. Peter Tobias and Nature's Pharmacy, I believe the name of the company is, they both claim on their labels that it is fully organic and certified, I believe, also on their website, but feel free to do your own research. So I have used store-bought prebiotics, probiotics in past. Another good one is Honest Kitchen's digestive bottle. It also, on the label, all the ingredients are the natural source, like from the fruits and vegetables and stuff. And I have personally used it, and I like that as well. So again, I'll drop all the links. The other thing that I've noticed, using the natural source of probiotics, prebiotics, when you have a healthy adult dog, what works for my dogs is I have used pumpkin puree for fiber. I have used sauerkraut, sauerkraut, right? The one that comes in the bottle for humans. That is a good source of prebiotic. I have used yogurt, which contains prebiotics in it. So not the yogurt such as Danone or something. You have to buy the yogurt which contains probiotics in it. I'm from Indian origin, so I go to Indian grocery store a lot, and the yogurt that I find there contains, and it has on the bottle itself that it contains probiotics. So I use that, and that tends to work well. Another option is kefir, K-E-F-I-R. That is also a good source of probiotic. And talking about probiotic, just a side item, that when you have a adult dog, a healthy dog, all feeding, I'm sorry, my dog's knocking my table where my camera is set. So, hey buddy. All right, he just woke up from his nap. So, what I've noticed is for adult healthy dogs, feeding them this type of natural sources of probiotics and all. It's very good for their immune system and for long run. But if your dog is on, let's say, antibiotics, then it is so much more important to feed them with probiotics, because antibiotics really tend to attack the immune system, and I'm speaking that from my personal experience. So that time it is even more so important to feed them probiotic. Maybe your vet will suggest to feed them higher quantity of probiotics. So that's something that should be coming from your vet, but I'm just speaking from my personal experience that it is very, very important to feed your dog good food, probiotics, prebiotics, and make their immune system and gut system, you know, healthy and strong. So if in case, if you ever have to feed them medications like antibiotics, then their immune system will not suffer as much. So that's just from my personal experience. And one last thing that I get questions on usually is about food allergies. So many pet parents say that their dog is allergic to, for example, chicken, right? Or some other source of foods. So I would just like to say that, and they like to know, you know, what are the alternatives. So I'd just like to say that I'd post links for reference, but to give few examples. So for example, if you're, as far as proteins are concerned, if your dog is allergic to chicken, and I'm assuming not entire poultry, just chicken, then other options is turkey, eggs, beef, venison, you know, and there are others as well. If your dog is allergic to entire poultry line, then yeah, I would avoid turkey as well from the list. For carbs, let's say if your dog is allergic to rice, then the other source of carbs are oats. Oats is also a very good source of fiber, so it kind of takes care of two things. Other thing is sweet potatoes, lentils, and there are other sources as well. Oh, for the proteins, I forgot to say, you can use kidney beans, chickpeas as well as a substitute, provided that you're it's okay for your dog to have that. So only your vet or pet nutritionist can confirm that, not me. For veggies and fruits, if you have a picky eater or if they're allergic to certain veggies and fruits, then I'll provide a link down below which lists all the dog-friendly veggies and fruits. So pick the ones that your dog is not allergic to, and I would highly recommend switching them, because rotating them, switching them is the key. Please don't feed them the same food every single week, or you know, try to switch them every so often. And that's the key, to rotate the vitamins, minerals, and you know, all the good stuff that we get from natural food. So rotating is the key. So those are all the questions that I had listed here that I pulled from my different videos and that I could remember that people have asked me in past. But if you have any other questions, please feel free to put a comment down below and ask questions, and I'll try my best to answer them or help with them. And if you guys are currently cooking homemade food for your dogs, or if you guys do feed supplements to your dogs, I would really like to know what all supplements have worked for you, or do you guys like to use. Please put them in comment down below. I'll also learn from you, just like you are probably learning some things from me. So please share, and I'll be more than happy to share any more information that you know, I gain over the time, and I'll make more videos about it. Alright, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye.